Video games are look easy, but outside perspective, it looks really easy enough. You just make codes, draw characters, backgrounds, bosses, tile sets, mini bosses, villains, or any other stuff you see in indie games, Metroidvania, etc. And as a video game lover or in video game as a gamer, I have a really love of playing video games, and I thought to myself, maybe I can make a one video game. So when I thought that maybe this is easy enough, just learn some programming. But no, since I don't have any experience in programming languages like C Sharp, C++, Python, or any coding languages. So that's my really struggle on my journey. I basically have enough time to think of a concept, just not the coding first. So since I am more on 3D arts, but it's really hard to do 3D video games, so I just went to the 2D video games, which is more involved on pixel arts or your own art style. But since I don't have any good drawings art style, so I'm much more on focus on pixels, and I use Sprite, which is the most basic pixel draw app that I can use. That easy to draw and create characters, backgrounds, animations, tile sets. So that's really easy enough to do, and I made the concept just easy. Basically, a robot platforming, side-scrolling video game. I'm just making this so I have an experience on creating a video games. So basically, my amateur, my amateur of making first video games. And since I have already draw the drawings, characters, backgrounds, and that's done. And my really hard obstacle, which is the engine. I have three options. It's either Unreal Engine, Godot, or Unity. The first engine, which is Unreal Engine, as you can see here, I have already a little bit experience, but this is not my tile sets, background set, and my characters. All of the controls are much more on visual scripting. Basically, I just focus on that. Basically, you have to connect all string attached or dots that you can make your character move like that. That's basically what I understand. Making this basically this is just for a test of what can I can do in Unreal Engine, since it's much more similar to nodes in Blender. I have very little understanding, but since this is visual scripting, it's much more on connecting all that than writing a code itself or language itself like C++, C Sharp, or C Sharp. And it was easy enough to do, but since Unreal Engine, it's much more focused on the 3D aspects, not on 2D video games. So I don't, there's no really a good options for 2D. So right now, but I don't have any experience. But maybe in the future I can make one good 2D video game side scrolling here. But I much more prefer on open source since this is paid. Basically, I have to pay to advance on making my video games better. Since Godot is a open free source, so it's just basically free for everyone. But since Godot it's much more on programming, but they have their own own language, which is JavaScript, which is similar to Python, but I don't know what Python is. JavaScript is basically my first language, and it's easy to understand the basics and all of that. I have already made a video game in the Godot, and right now you can see this is my progress and basically my finished product of my video game, which is just basic 2D shooting game with a little bit platforming. And I have done lots of scripting for all of them. The enemy, the hurt box, and dead animation, with sprite backgrounds and parallax backgrounds. Now I understand more Godot as the progress as I make progress because I made this video game in 2 months or maybe 3 months. But it took me a while to understand the scripting of it, and I watched some YouTube tutorials to understand more of the basic moments of Godot programming like that, so I can have a grasp to it, to what am I doing, and it's really helpful. But since tutorials are not really good, but it can help you. But since I'm just new here, so I just basically use tutorials to make my video game. And as of that, I created my own setup for my video game, and I love how it turns out. And I created 4 levels, just 4 levels. It's basically a short game, and not enough of level because I have many functions here. So I just focus on as you can see here. I have many graphics and my settings, and this is my first level. And as you can see here, they have many like not good movements, but it's possible enough to jump, run, stand, and basically to control the character. But since this is my first video game, I have many errors along through the way, but I learned from that mistake and made my coding a bit better. But enough of that. Let me walk through on my levels since this is playing the background and I'm just voiceovering it. This is my level 2. It's just basic jumping platform. And you can see here when I jump on the spikes, it doesn't hurt my health because I didn't really input the hurt box of losing my lives on spikes. Just basically an instant respawn. on your starting point of the level. So I didn't have any understanding to what I made that rough. So I have many things to do. And basically, this is my first video game ever.